My name is David Brose. I've been a university professor and a museum curator and a museum director as a prehistoric archaeologist from the University of Michigan. For the last 15 years, I've lived here in Kalamazoo, and I've been a long-term member of the Kalamazoo Historic Preservation Commission. A lot of the kids, when I tell them I'm an archaeologist, go into raptures about dinosaurs, and that's not what we do. Although we do a lot of digging in the earth, we're mostly looking at evidence of past human behavior. And we try to understand the way different people lived in the past, even in the same city, by looking at the houses that they had, by looking at the materials they used, by looking at the way they treated the city as a place where they could acquire different kinds of things and use them in different ways. And then, as we all know, a lot of stuff gets thrown out, it gets broken, it gets used up, and that shows different patterns of how human societies lived in the past. So we do archaeology in an urban environment in the modern context to sort of understand the historical processes that led to the different cultural and ethnic groups that make urban life. Well, I've done a lot of work with the city trying to keep them from inadvertently digging up something that they found at the end of a steam shovel in the middle of a project. I think the last thing I did, which I am still waiting for the city to approve of entirely, is kind of a plan for going ahead with urban development in a way that gives you the best chance of not having a significant archaeological deposit, something that could be on the National Register, show up in the process of destruction. One of the most interesting things was being able to disabuse people of some of the imagery and ideas that they have about the past. The one I think was the most significant for the city of Kalamazoo recently was the non-destructive archaeological work we were able to do in Bronson Park around the Aboriginal mound, which has been there for 1,000 years, to ensure people that, one, the city's redevelopment of the park was not going to affect thousands of other things that were out there. We were able to demonstrate they weren't there. And also to be able to give us a good idea of what we were going to be able to say about the mound, when it was built, what it was like, how people used it, to give people an idea of the importance of a central place in the life of the prehistoric peoples and the historic American Indians that lived here, just as Bronson Park is a central place in our lives today. There are other ethnic groups that were here in the 19th century and in the early 20th century whose way of living in Kalamazoo still is not written out in the history books. And archaeology can give us a picture of the way they interacted with other groups in this environment and the developing city of Kalamazoo. So I think there's still a lot to do, and I hope the city and the Historic Preservation Commission will continue to have that view of our past as a window of looking at how we behave today. I'm very greatly honored by this award. I thank the commission and commissioners. I'm also very pleased to see that archaeology will now be part of the Historic Preservation's mandate.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you.
We purchased this building in 2015. It had stood empty for several years, and it fit the need of KNHS, was centrally located, had enough space at the time, and wonderful atmosphere by the crosstown ponds. This was sort of a two-phase renovation, so we had a lot of mechanical things that needed to be fixed, infrastructure. So that was the roof, the windows, all of the original utilities were underground, so we moved the HVAC above ground, so all of those things needed to be done. So that was sort of the unglamorous side of it. The other side of it was actually coming in and redoing everything, all the walls, the painting, the furniture, the kitchen, everything, to really make it work for us. Because when we started the renovation, it was just at the beginning of COVID, and we had created an office that had a lot of open space, and we pivoted to an office that actually had more private offices. So timing sometimes is good for things like that, so it was for us. This building was chosen by KNHS because it is part of the neighborhood. It's very accessible for folks. We have good parking. It's easy to find us. We wanted it because It had some unique features to it. So being a doctor's office, it already was set up with a lot of private offices. So that's where our coaches meet with clients. That was certainly accessible. We have a large conference room, which we do education in. But really the motivation behind the renovation was actually we wanted a space that our clients felt valued in. So when you're trying to buy a home and you're looking at all the obstacles that you have ahead of you, you want to feel good when you're going through the process. So we wanted them to feel like they were valued, that we appreciated everything they did. So they're working here, they're going to then feel comfortable going into a realtor's office or in a lender's office. So it was really important for us to create an atmosphere that felt safe, that felt secure, that felt cheerful and hopeful. So that's what we aimed for. Neighborhoods thrive when people live in homes and when you get pride of ownership and you invest in the neighborhood. So I think that's where KNHS is really strong. So we go in and we build and we renovate, but if you look at our houses, they all fit in the neighborhood. So if the homes in the neighborhood have a front porch, we're gonna put in a front porch on the house. If certain colors are dominant in the neighborhood, we pick the outside colors to match what's there. And that's what we did here. We actually looked back. I could not have done this without the help of Tower Pinkster. Cassie Ritchie came in and really did research on what colors were around during that time. So our outside colors actually reflect what was important in the 60s. So we feel like we did a good renovation here, and that's a good example for our homeowners.
For a while now, I've been trying to get certain things done, especially the clock. Just getting it repaired, it never kept the time. Moved, all four sides were different times, and it's been a big headache. We couldn't really find people to do the work. Stewart Neighborhood Association came to me last year, asked how they could be more involved with the school and what they could do to support and help we need. They took it on for a while, then it kind of faded away and it kind of hit some bumps, but Cynthia Whittingham was the one. She kept it alive. She was relentless in it and found all the connections that we needed to make, set up meetings, went to board meetings and talked to people, and we found the right group. They came, did some investigating, took pieces with them, and then a couple months later we're back and we have a working clock again for the neighborhood. District, a few years back, illuminated the faces again. They had those lights had been long gone, and so they were able to do that, but then it was just made it more glaring that all these times were wrong because they stuck out more. So I kind of reinvigorated all of these talks. So just the work was on this little tiny motor, not bigger than, a shoebox. The last time I got working on was in the 80s. It lasted maybe less than 10 years. It stopped working again, and it's been off for 30-something years now, and so now we're here again. And they tell me it will go for a very long time this time. So we've had a lot of work done inside the building. New windows and new ceilings and air conditioning's been added and things like that, but they've left all of these really nice pieces that have been around since, the 20s and 30s. When people walk in here, they get struck by our rotunda, the chandelier and the woodwork in there, and they just, everyone without fail says, oh, they don't make them like this anymore. It's a point of pride for us. Being 100 years old does come with some issues, but we recognize that it is also special. And the neighborhood association, their new direction of supporting the school, and they use the school for different things, for meetings, community events, things like that. So this partnership being built up too, I know it's important to them as well. So yeah, I think it's a pretty big deal that we have that status. We love the school. We love the building.
Yeah. Community Homeworks is a local nonprofit here in the city of Kalamazoo. We really have two main purposes that we serve as part of our mission. We provide critical home repair services to income-eligible homeowners, and we also provide empowering education. to help people learn how to maintain and repair their home. We developed this relationship in this pilot with the O'Connor Fund on the premise that oftentimes low-income homeowners face challenges when they live in historic homes or in historic districts. We didn't want income to be a reason why somebody can't remain and thrive in a historic home or district.
So the O'Connor Fund grant that we received $10,000 to be spread over 5 homes that were over 50 years old, and it linked to our critical home repair program, and so we were utilizing this fund to take care of health and safety issues in any home over 50 years old. And we really focused on the health and safety issues of a home. So that looked like furnace and water heater replacements. We did some plumbing and electrical work. There was some interior, and I believe some exterior carpentry that we did with this funding as well. And the awesome thing about the O'Connor Fund was that it could be combined with other funding sources that we had that were not restricted, so that we could take on larger projects. There was a quote that I heard that said the most affordable housing is the housing that you already own. And I always go back to that, because if we're not taking care of and being good stewards of what is already in place here in town, then building new homes and new apartment structures, it's just creating more of the same problem, and ultimately still displacing people who are living in their homes already.
You know, not everything can be built from scratch. There's not the resources or the skilled tradespeople to do that. And you know, the other thing is, like, you just lose so much beauty and character that is our community. And so many of the homeowners that we serve, they love living in that historic structure, or, you know, love having those giant front porches in some of our historic neighborhoods, or, you know, yeah, they love having that beautiful gingerbread on the outside of their house. And so the homeowners we serve take a lot of pride in owning a home and being in their home and remaining in their home. And so I think preservation is incredibly important.